So, hello and welcome back yet again to another evening with Miss Beverly of Graustark, where I'm really curious as to how the rest of this book is going to play out because it seems like the game is up. I mean, Baldos just translated the letter that says that she's not the princess, she's Beverly Calhoun. And he did this to Beverly. So, yeah, I mean, we still have many chapters to go, so I'm really curious to see how this is going to play out. Uh, should be interesting. I hope everybody is doing good. It's still cold. I feel like that should just be a given. Although we've had some very unusual weather this year. We've had right after Christmas, we got up to near 40 degrees Fahrenheit and it melted pretty much all of the snow that we had. Melted all the snow off the lake and, you know, everything just sort of looked like spring, which is not the weather that we're supposed to be having in the end of December. So, you know, this is probably honestly the weather that we should be having, but having that little bit of a break with warm weather is just making me very, very pouty and sad about it being cold again. It's all right. I'll get over it. And weirdly enough, where I live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, right now, I think we're actually warmer than some of those places that got hit by that winter storm. I think we're either equal or a little bit warmer than places like Indiana and Ohio and northern Kentucky. So that's weird. That is not a normal thing for this area. So I guess I definitely should not complain, especially because, as you can see, the lights are on, the heat is going, and that is probably better than some of those people that got hit by that storm. So my thoughts definitely go out to them as we jump back into Beverly of Graustark by George Barr McCutcheon with chapter 18. I love it when I have to translate a Roman numeral, something I'm not all that good at, but chapter 18, Confessions and Concessions. Beverly was speechless. "Of course, Your Highness," said Baldos, deep apology in his voice. "Ravone is woefully misinformed. He is honest in his belief, and you should not misjudge his motives. How he could have been so blind as to confuse you with that frisky American girl. But I beg your pardon. She is to be your guest. 1,000 pardons, Your Highness." Beverly had been struck dumb by the wording of the note, but his apparently sincere apology for his friend set every one of her emotions into play once more. While he was speaking, her wits were forming themselves for conflict. She opened her campaign with a bold attack. You believe me to be the princess, sure enough, don't you?" But with all of her bravery, she was not able to look him in the face. "How can you doubt, Your Highness? Would I be serving you in the present capacity if I believed you to be anyone else?" "Ravone's warning has not shaken your faith in me?" "It has strengthened it. Nothing could alter the facts in this case. I have not, since we left Ganlook, been in doubt as to the identity of my benefactress." "It seems to me that you're beating around the bush. I'll come straight to the point. How long have you known that I am not the Princess of Graustark?" "What?" he said, drawing back in well-assumed horror. Do you mean, are you jesting? I beg of you, do not jest. It's very serious with me. His alarm seemed so genuine that Beverly was completely deceived. I'm not jesting, she half whispered, turning cold. Have you thought all along that I'm the princess? That I'm Grenfall Lorry's wife? You told me that you were the princess. But I've never said that I was anybody's wife. There was a piteous appeal in her voice, and he was not slow to notice it and to rejoice. Then his heart smote him. But what is to become of me if you are not the princess? He said, after he had a long pause. I can no longer serve you. This is my last day in the castle guard. You are to go on serving me. I mean, you are to retain your place in the service, Beverly quickly said. I shall keep my promise to you. How small and humble she was beginning to feel. It did not seem so entertaining after all, this pretty deception of hers. Down in his heart, underneath the gallant exterior, she had to wonder what was his opinion of her. Something was stinging her eyes fiercely, and she closed them to keep back her tears of mortification. Miss Calhoun, he said, his manner changing swiftly. I have known from the first that you are not the Princess of Graustark. I knew it an hour after I entered Edelweiss. Franz gave me a note at Ganlook, but I did not read it until I joined the guard. You've known all along? She cried, happy once again. And you've trusted me? You haven't hated me for deceiving you? I have never ceased to regard you as my sovereign. But just a minute ago you spoke of me as a frisky American girl. I've used that term but once. Well, I have said your highness 1,000 times. Knowing that you were Miss Calhoun, I could not have meant either. I fancy I have no right to criticize you, she humbly admitted. After all, it does not surprise me that you were not deceived. Only an imbecile could have been fooled all this time. Everyone said that you were no fool. It seems ridiculous that it should have gone to this length, doesn't it? Not at all, your highness, he said. I am not... You have the habit still, I see. I have several months still to serve as a member of the guard. Besides, I am under orders to regard you as the princess. General Marlanx has given me severe instructions on that point. You're willing to play this game to the end? Said Beverly, more gratified than she should have been. Yes, it is the only safeguard I have. To alter my belief publicly would expose me to what, Baldos? To ridicule, for one thing, and to the tender mercies of Count Marlanx. Besides, it would deprive me of the privilege I mentioned a moment ago, the right to kiss your hand, to be your slave, and to do homage to the only sovereign I recognize. Surely you will not subject me to exile from the only joys that life holds for me. You have sought to deceive me, and I have tried to deceive you. Each has found the other out, so we're even. May we not now combine forces in the very laudable effort to deceive the world? If the world doesn't know that we know, why, the comedy may be long drawn out and the climax be more amusing. I'm afraid that there was a touch of your old-timey sarcasm in that remark, said Beverly. Yes, I'm willing to continue the comedy. It seems the safest way to protect you, especially from General Marlanx. No one must ever know, Baldos. It would be absolutely pitiful. I am so glad. Oh, so glad you've known this whole time. It relieves my mind and my conscience tremendously. Yes, he said gently. I have known all along that you were not Mr. Lorry's wife. He divined Beverly's thoughts with that, and she flushed hotly. You are still a princess, however. A poor goat hunter can only look upon the rich American girl as a sovereign that he must worship from afar. Oh, I'm not so rich as all that, she cried. Besides, I think it's time for a general clearing up of all the mysteries. Are you Prince Danton, Prince Frederick, or the other one, that Cristobal? Come on, be fair to me. It seems that all of Edelweiss looks upon me as a prince in disguise. You found me in the hills. No, you found me. I have not forgotten, sir. I was a vagabond and a fugitive. My friends are hunted as I am. We have no home. Why everyone should suspect me of being a prince, I just can't understand. Everyone who roams the hills is not a prince. There is a price upon my head, and there is a reward for the capture of every man who was with me in the pass. My name is Paul Baldos, Miss Calhoun. There is no mystery in that. If you were to mention it in a certain city, you would quickly find that the name of Baldos is not unknown to the people who are searching for him. No, Your Highness. I regret exceedingly I must destroy the absurd impression that I am royal. Perhaps I am spoiling a pretty romance, but it can't be helped. I was Baldos the goat hunter. I am now Baldos the guard. Do you think I would be serving as a Graustark guard if I were any one of those men that you mentioned? Beverly listened in wonder, and a little disappointment, it must be confessed. Somehow, a spark of hope was being forever extinguished by this straightforward denial. He was not to be the prince that she had seen in her dreams. You are not like anyone else, she told him. That is why we thought of you as one of those unhappy creatures that they call a prince. Thank fortune, Your Highness, I am not yet reduced to those straits. My exile will only come when you send me away. They were silent for a long time. Neither was thinking of the hour, or the fact that her absence in the castle could not be unnoticed. Night had fallen heavily upon the earth. The two faithful chair-bearers, respectful but with wonder in their souls, stood far off and waited. Baldos and Beverly were all alone in their own little world. I think I liked you better when you wore the red feather and that horrible patch. And was a heart-free vagabond? He added, a question in his voice. An independent courtier, if you please, sir, she told him. Do you want me to go back to the hills? I have the patch and feather, and my friends are... No, don't suggest such a thing yet. She began her protest eagerly and ended it in confusion. Alas, you mean someday banishment is not unlikely? You don't expect to be a guard all your life, do you? Not to serve the Princess of Graustark, I confess that. I aim much higher. If God lets me choose the crown I would serve, I would enlist for life. The crown I would serve is wrought of love. The throne I would kneel before is a heart. The scepter I would follow is in the slender hand of a woman. I could live and die in service of my own choosing, but I am only a humble goat hunter, whose hopes are phantoms, and whose ideals are conceived in impotence." "That was beautiful," murmured Beverly, looking up, fascinated for the moment. "Oh, that I had the courage to enlist," he cried, bending low once more. She felt the danger in his voice, half tremulous with something more than loyalty, and she pulled her hand away from a place of instant jeopardy. It was fire she was playing with. She realized this with a start. Sweet as the spell had grown, she did see it must someday be shattered. "It's getting frightfully late," she said sharply. "They're gonna wonder where I've gotten to. Why, it's actually dark." "It has been dark for half an hour, Your Highness," he said, pulling himself up with a sudden rigidness that distressed her. "Are you going to return to the castle?" "Why, yes, they'll be sending out a search party pretty soon if I don't appear." "You have been good to me today," he said. "I will try to merit that kindness. Let me—" "Oh, please don't talk in that humble way. It's ridiculous. I'd rather have you absolutely impertinent. I declare on my honor I would. Don't you remember how you talked back when you wore the red feather? Well, I liked it." Baldos laughed happily and easily. His heart was not humble, though his voice and manner were. "Red is the color of insolence. That's what you mean." "It is a good deal jauntier than blue." "Before you call the bearers, Your Highness, I wish to retract something that I said a while ago." "I should think that you would," she told him, utterly misinterpreting his intent. "You asked me to tell you what my message to Ravone contained, and I refused. Subsequently, the extent of his message to me led us to a most thorough understanding. It is only just and right that you should know what I said to him." "Why, I trust you, Baldos." "That is why I will tell this to you. Yesterday, Your Highness, the castle guard received their monthly pay. You may not know how well we are paid, so I will say it is 10 gravos to each. The envelope that I gave Ravone contained my wages for the last 6 weeks. They need it more than I do. There was also a short note of good cheer to those poor comrades of mine, and the assurance that one day our luck might change and starvation be succeeded by plenty. And still more, I told him that I knew you to be Miss Calhoun, and that you were my angel of inspiration. That is all. That's it, Your Highness." "Thank you, Baldos, for telling me that," said Beverly softly. "You've made me ashamed of myself." "On the contrary, I fear I have been indulging in mock heroics. Truth and egotism, like salad, do require a bit of dressing." "Since you are Baldos, and not a fairy prince, I think you may instruct the men to carry me back, being without the magic tapestry which could transport me in a whiff. Oh my goodness, who's that?" Within 10 feet of the chair, and directly behind the tall guard, stood a small group of people. He and Beverly had so engrossed each other and not heard them approach. How long had they been silent spectators of this little scene? Only the intruders would know that. The startled, abashed eyes of the girl in the chair were not long in distinguishing the newcomers. A pace in front of the others stood the gaunt, shadowy form of Count Marlanx. And behind him, were the Princess Yetive, the old Prime Minister, and Baron Dangloss. Ooh, they're gonna be in trouble. And that is the end of chapter 18. But not entirely the end, because this is one of the chapters that has a beautiful illustration. I need to look up the illustrator's name again, because this person does a very impressive job with their illustrations. I wonder if they were a famous artist. I should look it up. Let's see. Illustrated by... I know it said it somewhere. Sorry, while I just sit here and search. Harrison Fisher is the illustrator. And here is the illustration of Beverly and Baldos having their sweet conversation in the sedan chair. And under it says, "That was beautiful," murmured Beverly, looking up, fascinated for the moment. I'm not seeing any of the princess or anybody else. I like me peeking around the book to make sure that it's actually in the frame. But it's definitely very pretty. Looks like there's a little bit of the classical Greek statuary in the back. And interestingly, Beverly talks about him wearing blue, but that coat looks definitely green to me. I mean, maybe I'm just colorblind, but that is definitely a green coat. The carriage is blue, though. So pretty. I'm also not sure that I'm totally on board with the hat that he's wearing, but I am not a hat girly. Never have been. Anyway, well, that should be interesting. I guess depending on how much the people who were in the bushes were able to hear, the game truly might be up just when they agreed to make the game go a little longer. I guess we're going to have to wait and see, though. Anyway, thank you, as always, for listening. I hope that you enjoyed that chapter. I know I did, and I will see you tomorrow.